Good evening. Welcome to the May 23rd, 2017 meeting of the Millis School Committee. I will start by announcing that this meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 o'clock on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. Start with a roll call. Denise is not here tonight. Carrie?
Here.
I'm here. Nancy?
I'm here.
Steve?
Present.
Jen is running late. No teacher representatives tonight. Josh is here. Jody, anybody signed in for open session?
There is not.
All right. So first and only action item is consideration to approve the May 9th school committee meeting minutes.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion to approve the May 9, 2017 school committee meeting minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. All right. Student representatives? Josh, go ahead.
Graduation is on June 1st. It's Thursday. Seniors had Spirit Week last week, and this week they're officially done. They don't have to go to school anymore. And also, senior project presentations are going on though. The boys Millis volleyball game, their first playoff game is against Milford, and it's this Thursday. And then finals will start on June 14th and go to the 19th, and that's in a B-day schedule.
Thanks, Josh. No time in learning. We'll go to superintendent's report.
Mr. Chair, we have a retirement to announce. Our Director of Technology, Kate Sear, has decided, albeit somewhat reluctantly, to retire. She loves what she does. She's done a great job. And as you know, Millis is still at the forefront of how we utilize technology to enhance student learning. So she, in conversation, we spoke about the summer being such a busy time that Kay is willing to retire at the end of the summer, August 31st. And you have in your packets her letter of retirement, as well as the job description that the administrative team has tweaked a little bit to focus more on the fact that we are a district that utilizes technology very well. It's infused into everything, and teachers integrate it to personalize learning better than, I would say, most districts in the state. So rather than just Director of Technology, we thought the title Director of Digital Learning and Innovative Educational Technology would attract the type of candidate we're looking for. We do have a very excellent network specialist and 2 excellent technicians. So we're not looking necessarily for somebody with technical expertise in those areas, but has to understand enough about everything to be a visionary, to help continue to move the district forward, to manage there is a lot to manage. There is a lot of devices in the district, and the professional development. So we moved some things in the job description up, and added a couple of sentences to the introduction to focus on the fact that we utilize technology to meet the needs of our 21st century learners, and by matching our hardware, software, and all our services and professional development with the needs of the faculty and students to move the district forward. So I apologize, I meant to make a copy of the old job description. It's not significantly different, but we'll email that to you tomorrow.
And Nancy, just a couple of Kay, her contract was to run through next year.
Yes.
Originally. Now there stipulations on notice time and things like that.
She did give me, and especially since she's staying through August 31st, willing to stay,
Yep.
willing to overlap with a candidate. We are, Joan Lynn is heading up the search committee. We are, of course, having teachers involved in all aspects of that, the interviews, the paper screening, and the that committee is forming currently this week. We hope to start interviews soon and complete the process by June, because we want teachers involved in the process. And we want kids and teachers to be in the buildings when we do site visits, which we typically do. We generally have the candidate spend at least a half a day here informally, observing and meeting with people and meeting with as many people as we can.
Is this sometimes we talk about when we hire administrators and teachers too. There's kind of better seasons for recruiting and hiring. How does this lay into what we think the candidate pool might look like?
It's a little later than I would have liked. January, February is a great time to post these positions, but we already have, I think, about 15, and we just posted it last Friday, I believe, in School Spring. We already have 15 to 18, last I looked, candidates, some of them quite strong. So I do think Millis has a very strong reputation in this. We're certainly sending it out on our listservs, our job-alike groups of principals and our director of technology, and spreading the word that way, as well as advertising in School Spring.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I think going forward, we need to look at the termination, the employee termination of the contract. I don't think 30 days, and she clearly gave it, but 30 days is probably not enough. We should really bump it out. I believe the superintendent's contract is 3 months, I believe, so we may want to try to give ourselves some more time. Obviously, emergencies can pop up, we get that, but as a rule, we'd probably want to know January, or at least by February 1st, so we're not rushing to literally condense a process while when students are going out the door and teachers are trying to wrap up. It's a busy time of the year, so it's well within her right to terminate. She gave the 30 days notice, but I think we should, as we enter into new contracts, look to see, maybe there is an industry standard, but 30 days is not a lot. More we'd want to, because actually, if looking at if the director of technology wishes to negotiate an extension of the contract, she must notify the superintendent in writing no later than February 1st, 2018, because it was going to end.
Right.
Maybe we try to use February for contracts that end on June 30th. Maybe we use February 1st as that kind of. If you want to extend, let us know. If you want to leave, let us know.
Yeah.
So, just something to think about.
Yeah.
Good point.
We should end the meeting then. That's a good point.
Personalized.
Mr. Phelps is on his way over from the concert, the recorder concert, so I'm going to defer that, or delay it to the end of the meeting, if I may.
10 minutes. All right, so I will go to see anything from elementary school building committee.
No, we had a meeting last week. We're in the final push. Town meeting is on the 4th. We're going to be putting an update out on just kind of a couple things that have occurred. The state approved. I don't have the letter in front of me, but I want to say it's 20.8 or 9 million. Did you remember the exact number, Nancy? It was right in the ballpark of what we've been saying. So we have a funding letter from them. It's contingent upon passing a town meeting, but the state has now clarified exactly what they will spend. The governor signed last week, or maybe even the week, no, I think it was last week, he signed the land swap legislation, so all of the land that was previously designated as school has now gone over to the town, and the town land has come over to school, and some land has been designated as park. So those are two significant milestones for the project. And lastly, the Inspector General approved the contractor at CM at risk. Construction manager at risk, which is the elementary school building committee made a choice to go down. There's either two routes where you just bid out the project, or you engage a construction manager at risk, and then once you engage the construction manager at risk, it makes for a more fluid process. It's a better process. We've built buildings in town without CM at risk, and they've been more difficult than the ones with CM at risk. So those are three things as we run up to the town meeting coming up on June 4th.
It's the 5th,
The 5th.
Monday the 5th.
Monday the
Fourth is
5th.
the
I had the
7th.
wrong date, sorry. Thank you.
I was just looking for the letter. I couldn't find it.
No,
I was looking for the exact number.
I wanted, it was high 20s.
Yeah.
It was, but like I said, definitely within the range that we had been talking about and publicizing.
All right. Correspondence. Nancy, you want to do the letter from regarding rock and coal?
Yes, we received a letter from attorneys Doherty, Chinowski, Dugan, and Cannon in Franklin regarding the application of a new restaurant, Rock and Coal in Millis, that will be located at 36B Milliston Road. I believe that's in Milliston Commons, isn't it?
Yeah, it's where Kids Turf used
Kids
to be.
Turf. Just alerting us to they are applying for an alcoholic beverage license for the new restaurant in the Roach Brothers Plaza or Milliston Common, and that if the Millis Public Schools objects to this application, it must submit a written objection to the Board of Selectmen to prevent the issuance of such license under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 16C.
And so we didn't have any issues, and we had gotten this in advance, but they held the meeting last night and did grant the license.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
And so the other item in correspondence is we received a letter from a resident raising questions and concerns about an email sent on May 1st. So we responded with the letter. I'll read the letter now and the response as we drafted it in consultation with school council. So it says, Dear Ms. Day, the Millis School Committee is in receipt of your correspondence dated May 12, 2017 regarding an email you received from Steve Catalano dated May 1st, 2017. As you know in your letter, Mr. Catalano is currently an appointed member of the Elementary School Building Committee, as well as an elected member of the Millis School Committee. Mr. Catalano's first email urged support of the ballot question regarding the Clyde Barron Elementary School, as well as two candidates for election to the school committee. Mr. Catalano's email was sent from a personal email account. After reviewing this matter with the committee's legal counsel, it was indicated that your concerns about Mr. Catalano are not within the jurisdiction of the school committee, as they relate to matters governed by state agencies, specifically the State Ethics Commission and the Office of Campaign and Political Finance. The committee does not possess any enforcement authority with respect to these matters. If you believe that there has been a violation of either state ethics laws or the law enforced by the Office of Campaign and Political Finance, you should confer with them. If you have any questions concerning this matter, or are unclear about any aspect of it, please contact me. Very truly yours, Denise Gibbons, Chair of the Middle School Committee. That is what we have in correspondence. Chairman's report. There's been, last week at the Finance Committee, in terms of budget, the Finance Committee recommended funding $20,000 towards the middle school, high school bathroom warrant article, so it's now fully funding that, as well as, and that was the only real new update. Operating budget, I don't expect to change. The Finance Committee and the Selectmen are basically in agreement, with the exception of one additional position that the Selectmen and Town Administrator are advocating for. The Finance Committee is reluctant to fund it with any additional free cash, so they are working to see if they can find reductions in other municipal budgets in order to fund that position. Nancy let me know this morning that at a superintendent's conference last week, they were informed by that both the governor and the Secretary of Education have put out early potential warnings of reductions to fiscal 18's Chapter 70 funding, but that won't, and it would come through as part of the Senate's budget. We won't know that until mid to late June, though, so we will get through town meeting with what we have. If there is a reduction, and it's significant to the town, my expectation would be that come next November at the November town meeting, any requirements for adjusting the budget would happen then. It would only be a few months into the year, so we can obviously get through the first 3 or 4 months, and we would be both town and school, we'd be able to get through those first 3 or 4 months, make any adjustment that would be necessary to carry out the rest of the year. What doing it in November would also do is allow us, one, to certify free cash for next year, but also have a true understanding of what revenue we think the town is coming in. So if there's additional growth in town, some changes to local revenue that might help offset the Chapter 70 reduction, we can deal with it then. But until the final state budget is voted and signed, we won't know exactly what we have. So that's the budget update. In our packets, I did see a list of the subcommittee assignments. So if people want to take a look at what is out there, and reach out to Denise with any changes or what you would be interested in, then she can recirculate that, and we can reassign those.
So why don't I go ahead and speak to this, since Mr. Phelps is still over at the concert. As part of our personalized learning initiative, we've been talking about innovative ways to be more focused on the fact that just because a child is 9 does not mean that the grade 3 curriculum is what they need to learn. Some children come into grade 3 knowing already what the grade 3 standards are in the Massachusetts frameworks. Some children need a lot more time to bolster their skills, that their basic skills that they need to continue learning. And so one of our foundational premises is that we meet students wherever they are in their competencies in different subject areas and try to take them as far as they can go. And sometimes that means enrichment, sometimes that means more support. The basic premise being all children can learn, but they all need different amounts of time to learn, and that they might need different amounts of support to learn. So the idea of a personalized learning lab classroom is one that we thought of might be a wonderful way to test out some ideas with a teacher, a volunteer teacher that was passionate about doing this voluntarily. And it would be a multi-age grouping of 11 third graders, 11 fourth graders to engage in project-based learning that each group would have to take the MCAS at the end of the year, so they still have the same competencies they have to master by the end of the year, but do so in a different way that would enable us to do some very innovative things. It also happens to address the fact that we're with some groups being, and I see Mr. Phelps coming now, but some groups, some grade levels having slightly more kids and some slightly less, with the enrollments depending on how they fall. You can see on page 4 of Mr. Phelps' proposal that it can address, rather than have classes that are too small, it can address an enrollment issue by having a multi-age classroom. We're very excited about this. As I said, it would be a teacher who is also excited to try this out. He has, the idea would be that parents also, after an informational session, could certainly ask a lot of questions, that parents would have a say in choosing this option. And we think it's a great idea. There are several school districts around the country that have, here, why don't you come to the middle table now, that have multi-age classrooms.
Jump on in.
Hopedale being one of them. So I started off, Mr. Phelps, in introducing the idea of the pilot personalized learning lab, but go ahead and speak to what excites you about this.
Sure. So it looks like my timing is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, I guess what got me thinking about this this idea was, one thing that I love about Millis is that we're innovative. We're not afraid to think about new things. We're not afraid to do things in a different kind of way. And part of the personalized learning process is what makes Millis so unique. So I started thinking about the learning curve that we have at Clyde Brown. And you know, in retrospect, we've come a long way. We have kids and faculty in preschool and kindergarten using devices, and that wasn't the case 6 years ago when I started. So I think that we're on a learning curve. But you know, earlier this year we had done, as part of our professional practice, walkthroughs to the middle and high school, and I was blown away by the level of sophistication and the level of understanding that kids at the middle and high school level have with devices, and how teachers kind of seamlessly integrate it as part of practice. So I started to think, all right, how can we better build our own capacity to help ourselves, you know, become more aware and more open with personalized learning? It's coming along. You know, we are getting better every year, but I started to think, if we were going to make changes, dynamic changes, what would that look like? So I started to think that, wouldn't it be a great idea if we found a teacher who was passionate about blended learning, knowledgeable, a teacher leader who could really serve as a role model to other teachers at Clyde Brown. Wouldn't it be great if we could think about kids who learn best through multimodal means of instruction? And I started to think, why couldn't we do this? Why couldn't we, for 1 year, pilot a model where we have a teacher who's passionate about personalized learning, understands the standards and how to teach to them, so that if there were kids from mixed grade levels, it's not linear. You know, when we think about standards, there are standards that kind of sequence up through each grade level, so it's a matter of translating that into instruction and bringing it to kids through the lens of personalized learning, which includes blended learning, kind of setting up assignments beforehand and using devices to do that. It includes a whole lot of collaboration and cooperation on kids' part. It really is kind of rethinking the curriculum that we do at Clyde Brown in new and interesting ways. So Nancy and I had a conversation about this, and she too thought it was a fascinating idea, so I started to think more deeply about it. And I thought, this is really a great opportunity for us to learn a lot about ourselves as a school, as educators. Because in this model, once we have a passionate teacher and kids who really learn best in this way of learning, it's a great opportunity for personalized professional development, I guess you'd call it, in that teachers could sign up to see what's going on in this classroom at different points during the day, and it could serve as kind of a springboard for a discussion. And also, from my perspective, kind of motivator. If teachers are seeing new and exciting things, part of my job is to encourage them to take risks and to try new things. So in that way, it really benefits kids, because we'd certainly be looking to get their feedback about the learning that they're doing and what worked, what could be better. It could be a great opportunity for teachers because it kind of promotes and advances our cause of personalized learning. And at the end of the day, it prepares our kids for better, I think, for middle school and high school, where it's kind of part of the culture. So that's why I'm excited about this. I think it's really a great opportunity to do some action research in a really intimate way, so that we benefit from this personally.
Conceptually, I think it sounds like a great idea. A couple of questions that I have, more just on.
Sure.
Is one on the picking the number. So, and maybe the number in this class would fluctuate year to year, but have you already identified that there are 11 in each grade that could fit the mold, like, kind of going down this path? Maybe it would be, this is just a pilot, we'll see how it works, but just envisioning a year where, what if you don't have 22? What if you only have 15?
Right.
How does that, because when you've got the criteria in here, you need, so I guess for the pilot piece, do we already know that there's 22 that would fit in? Does it break 11-11, or is it, I guess, and then secondary, would it matter in a year if you didn't have 11 and 11? Would you do 18 and 4 or whatever?
Sure.
How do you envision that part playing out?
And that's a great question. I settled on the number 22 because I took a look at the predicted enrollments for next year of kids coming in. I took a look at staffing patterns, and my goal was to have this classroom have about the same amount of kids as every other class. So in a way, it's kind of a control model. I mean, if we have a classroom that has fewer kids and it's really successful, then we could attribute that to a lot of different factors. But if we keep the numbers at around the same numbers as the other grade levels, then it really, if we're doing kind of a research-based piece, it kind of takes that part out of it. I think that There are definitely 11 children at each grade level that can benefit. And I think rather than looking at academics, how well they perform in academics, it's really more important to look at their learning styles, things like, do they have the social skill set? There are some students who, it's developmental. They might be doing extremely well academically, but socially is a place that they need to individualize their work. Also, being able to work independently for long periods of time. Again, developmentally, some third graders and some fourth graders need that support. But if students are able to work more independently, then I think that makes them a good fit. Communication is huge. Are they able to articulate, even with support from a teacher, so that they're able to communicate well? And I think the most important piece is kids are risk takers. They look at problem solving as a kind of a motivating challenge. There are some kids who need to be encouraged to take risks and supported to take risks. And there are some kids who are wired just to come in and be really interested and fascinated and, determined to problem solve. And I think that set of skills is the right fit. It doesn't need to be someone who's academically in a certain place, but because part of the whole process is scaffolding them. And a skilled teacher will be able to do that.
Mr. Chair, how do you nominate, or how do you know which levy kid, or is it a lottery system, sort of like Spanish immersion? Is it a nomination for the teachers? Is it like a criteria that you look at the current students, and then how do you envision that process to choose the children?
Sure. I think because it's such a new idea, initially it makes sense to go to the teachers. They know the skill sets of students. They're able to best recommend children who this might be a good fit for the program. Then I would contact families to let them know that this is a possibility for next year if you're interested. It would totally be optional. If parents chose to sign up, terrific. If they didn't, then there might be a scenario where we have other parents who think it's fascinating and they're not sure. We could kind of work with that. My goal is in the future to have more classrooms operate this way. Maybe not with the third and fourth split, but operate with the same kind of principles and the same instructional style.
And did you choose third and fourth grade because it's the older, or is it just strictly off of numbers? What made you pick third and fourth?
That's a great question. When I took a look at the numbers for enrollment trends for next year, next year's fourth grade is third and fourth grade are numbers where the population boom has shifted. There are fewer children in those grades. And I think that when you talk about readiness and developmental ability to learn, in a different style like this, developmentally, third and fourth graders have the skill base to be able to do this. Not that first and second grade and kindergarten couldn't, but I think that for them, the direct instruction is really important so that they can get to a point that they're able to do more independent kinds of things.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
So, Mr. Phelps, and I've been on the committee for a long time with Mr. Conroy, and we always defer to the superintendent and to the principals on education, right? So you're the expert. Both of you are the experts. So if you tell me that this is the good way to go and it's the right thing to do and it works, I'm not in a position to question that. I'll defer to your judgment and professionalism and expertise. I do look at it from a budget standpoint, right? Budget and policy. So a couple questions that are budget impact and a couple statements. For the 23 Chromebooks, and I don't know if I should direct this to the superintendent or to you, but I'll just throw it out there. Are these new? Are these above and beyond?
These would be in addition.
Okay, so we
It's
need
about
to break out
$8,000.
$8,000, not a piece, for the whole.
Right, total.
Hold on a second, I just want to take a couple notes.
If I could.
Yeah.
That $8,000 is kind of an upfront investment. We conducted online MCAS for the first time this year with fourth grade, and we used Chromebooks. And it was balancing act. We had to borrow some from the middle school and some from the high school, so that we were able to have all the kids being able to test. The purchase of the Chromebooks is automatically going to help the testing situation down the road. You know, 4th grade is doing it, and then within the next 2 years, 3rd grade will be doing it as well. So it's kind of keeping an eye to the future in a sense, and thinking about the things that are coming down the pike so we can plan for them.
That's fine. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, sure.
The other, do we need, where you're blending 2 grades, it's the first time we're doing this, do we need an aide in this classroom?
We haven't talked about that. We don't anticipate needing an aide beyond what would be the normal.
For
If there were students and on IEPs that had
Okay.
assistance from paraprofessionals in the classroom.
But
that-
not
that
an
would apply.
additional aid
No.
beyond an IEP situation?
No.
Right.
Okay. And so the teacher, is there any special requirements or, what's it called? I'm sorry, I'm blanking, it's been a long day.
Certification.
Certification. Is this a regular teacher, an elementary school level
Right.
teacher? Okay.
Well, there are 2, early childhood certification goes pre-K to 2, I believe, so it would have to be somebody who has the
Okay.
certification up through grade 6, the regular elementary certification, not the early childhood certification.
And then lastly, a comment. I can appreciate the additional benefit at the very end. I don't know who wrote this memo, but looking to fund a new position, and I don't think we're in that position yet, considering we have a deficit. So it's duly noted that you're looking for an assistant principal / dean of culture or part of it, but at this point, we're still in flux with our budget after last conversation. It's good to put it down there.
Sure.
Right? Every time you come here, we ask you, what do you need? We make no promises, but tell us, so it is noted. And then if there's any other cost, the tech support, the Tinker Maker space, that's in that classroom. So if there's, between now and the next meeting, if there's any additional cost that you can think of, albeit as small they are, just so we have an idea what benefit. But if it looks like this is really an $8,000 investment, am I missing something? Is that,
Right.
do you see any other costs coming down the road?
No.
So we're
Right.
doing something innovative for small money, for Chromebooks that you sold very well, that we're gonna use for other purposes at different points in the year. So
Right.
there's clearly technology, and building more technology is part of this committee's drive. So it's not a problem, just needed to know the costs.
At one of the June meetings, I believe it's June 6th, Kate Tessier and Mr. Millis will come to present the technology update. And as part of that, we will be talking about purchasing more Chromebooks for the district for the reason Jason mentioned, that it is, the MCAS testing is going online for many more subjects next year. So that'll be part of the overall technology budget presentation. And then...
And as a request for that, don't self-edit. Give us what we really would need, and then we will, because clearly our capital plan for technology, we'll never, some of those years are hundreds of thousands of dollars, we can't meet them, but lay out what, with the magic wand, what we would need within reason, and then we can kind of build from that.
Okay, happy to, thank you. And then just to mention, we're reaching out to Hopedale to talk to them about the lessons they've learned over the years for multi-age classrooms. Mr. Phelps is doing that. There is a good research base for both multi-age and for looping, which this presents an option perhaps for, not necessarily, but we're looking at, whether those 3rd graders stay with the same teacher as 4th graders in the 2nd year, because the benefits to looping with the same teacher are well proven. So they're...
It's not the first time you guys have put, a couple of years ago with the Spanish immersion classes, you did, it wasn't full-time, but they were going back and forth in the 3rd and 4th grade.
I think they still
They
teach
still are.
They
a
still
lot.
are?
Yeah, and it's coming along beautifully, and I see what's happening in that setting, where it's 2 teachers that are kind of blending
Big
kids
classes
together.
too.
Yeah,
Those are big
very
classes.
big classes, but the first year is always a trial year, and by now it's seamless. They have integrated so well.
Good.
You know,
One other question, more just, maybe just speak to it a little bit. So in the last few years, we as a committee and from a budget perspective and have intentionally looked at keeping class sizes smaller. So as we've had, some of it just due to natural lower student populations, but we've also, as a district, kind of shifted a teacher moving along with the one grade that had the higher amounts, and we managed it a couple of years ago. We specifically made the decision to maintain all of our staffing levels so that class sizes would be lower. And we had been looking at this 18, 19 number as kind of that spot of not too low, but it's, you know, at a decent place. So with this proposal now taking all of our 3rd and 4th grades up to 22, 23, 24, which is kind of where we were and what we were purposefully trying to back away from. Can you speak to why it's okay to get back to that level by our own choice?
sure. There's a body of research that exists that kind of takes a look at class size numbers. Clearly, you know, from a teacher's standpoint, and I was one for a very long time, you have a different, it's different when you have 18 or 19. The numbers that I'm looking at really are 3 more students in a class than the 18, 3 or 4 more than the 18 or 19. That the research shows does not make a significant impact on the level of learning that goes on. And I think that with the right teacher for this position, for the 11 kids in that classroom, it can be a very beneficial experience. The 4th grade is looking at doing some interesting things next year as well about combining instruction in certain capacities. So it's kind of an ongoing conversation. At the end of the day, if we find that it's not beneficial, then really it's possible to go back to the way things were. But the body of knowledge that we've gained from this experience, I think, is truly it's worth the risk.
Yeah, just to, Mr. Chair, if I may, the class size research that has many, many years of many studies shows that when you get to levels of 15 or lower, there is a significant impact, and it varies. Young children compared with 3rd and 4th graders too, but much more impactful in terms of learning and achievement. Student learning and achievement is an effective teacher, and we believe strongly that we now in Millis have effective teachers across the board, and that we do not have any underperforming teachers, so that but this would be also a teacher who's passionate about making it work and trying it and being excited about modifying and project-based learning and the STEAM and the Maker Lab and all that goes into this being both a dynamic learning environment, but also one that tracks students' progress in each of the subject areas carefully, because we do have to face MCAS at the end of the year, and that is the bottom line of learning, or the main indicator. You know, there are a lot of other indicators of learning, but it is the one that holds us accountable at the state level. So I think I'm happy to share and gather the research on class sizes. When I started as superintendent, it was very common to have 24 in 3rd and 4th grades, with really no lessening of the quality of education. 1819 is nice. It's lovely from a getting to know your students well and being to support them. And then with the social emotional challenges that we're seeing more and more of in the schools, a smaller class is beneficial. But in terms of just student learning, the research would show that 22 to 24, even up to 27, 28, is not a factor in student achievement.
If you could, if there is
Sure.
something, I think, not even just for the committee, but even community as a whole, and having it available somehow, maybe not necessarily distribute it, but have it available, because the outside world who isn't familiar with that research, and there is a general feeling that, 24, 25 is this magic number that everybody's heard about for, not here, just in general. So, and this whole idea of the smaller class sizes allowing for more personalized attention, etc. So to have that information available and to somehow proactively kind of educate people that, this 23, 24 number is...
It's great. It really is great. It's fine.
Because that's not how we've been going down this path, and we've specifically made decisions to not do that.
Well, I think too, if I may, Mr. Chair, historically, one of the reasons we didn't reduce staff was because we have great fluctuations. So we have this year's 3rd grade class the current 3rd grade class is 74 students across the grade. But next year's 3rd grade class jumps up to 107 across the grade. So, this is a model, and as a pilot, it's going to afford us the flexibility to not have classes of too small, of 16, 17, 18, that are not cost effective in a tight budget that we have. And instead be able to have multi-age classes if we prove that it's a good thing for kids, that can, swing up or down and accommodate, so that we have kind of normalized class sizes across the grades.
Mr. Chair.
If I could just add. Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to ask, I know I'm late, and I apologize for being late. With those large class sizes with 23 and 24, maybe you already said this, but is there consideration of maybe a rotating aide across classrooms? It does seem like a lot of kids, maybe you already asked.
We asked about the aid, whether an
Okay.
aid was necessary, and the answer was basically
You know,
beyond the...
It's funny that in Millis, 23, 24 sounds to you large, and it's not. It's, I'm speaking to other superintendents, 26, 27, 28 is very common. But in Millis, we've had the luxury in some ways of having very, very small class sizes. So 20, 24, 25 in the intermediate grades is not uncommon, and it's not a hardship or something that would require extra resources. But more important, I think, the consideration is on the social emotional ends of things, looking at, as they do very carefully in the placement process that they undergo with parental input with the teachers at the elementary level, that consideration for the social emotional aspects of groupings, and we're moving strongly forward. I think we're in a good place in social emotional learning for kids with the PBIS and everything else we do with Open Circle. But that is an area of real intense focus right now with our new school psychologist doing a review of everything in the district, and then that's the first 2 days of our leadership retreat are focused on looking at our tiers of intervention and support in the social emotional realm and what we can do better. So I think that is definitely something we want to be highly aware of.
So if there were other people in the classroom, ideally they would be specializing in those areas. The numbers 24, 25, they just seem really large to me. And I know we're in Millis and we've had class sizes of 16 and 18, but I actually thought that those were great for the kids as my kids went through the program. So I have a slightly different perspective, but I haven't read all the research on these things either.
We'll compile maybe some of the meta-analysis that's out there on the class size research and have that available and bring it to the committee.
If I could just add, you know, in thinking about this model, 3rd and 4th grade are the teams where those teachers are highly professional. They are looking for a challenge to do something different and to learn from one another. At the end of the day, it's my job to care about kids and care about the quality of education that they get. I would not have moved forward with this recommendation if I thought it was going to harm kids in any way or compromise learning for them. I think that sometimes in order to do new things, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I'm suggesting for 1 year that if we, you know, kind of use this as a learning experience, we have a lot to gain from this. Kids have a ton of things to gain from this too.
Any other questions, comments? Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright. That gets us down to no old and new business. So we'll go to school committee announcements. Jen?
Someone's going to talk about this, so I'll just mention it. Maybe we mention it 4 or 5 times, but town meeting is June 5th. And if you're a voting resident, please come to town meeting and vote. It's important. It's really important to be there, and oftentimes we have low turnout and big decisions are made throughout the town with a low voter turnout. So we really encourage you to go, and there's a big ballot, well not a ballot, there's a big question, a $52 million, $51 million project that's being considered, and it's an important decision for the town, so I encourage people to vote.
I echo what Jen said. I already talked about the town meeting, but you summed it up very nicely.
Karen?
No,
All right.
good.
No old and new business. We don't have to go to executive session because there's no update on grievance. So I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Catalano?
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Yeah.